All right. Oh wait, change the chat to live chat. All right. All right. Here we go. So I got myself a brand new camera, right? A brand new camera. It looks good. It looks really good. Like I got a Logitech camera. A 1080p, 60 frames per second. It looks good. Looks good. Looks smooth. It's like the same, and like I guess the resolution's more compatible with like what's going on. So hey, it all works out. So today on Minecraft, I'm running Rethinking Voxels Beta 5. Beta 5. Not the old Beta 18D. That one was great, but that's from the old branch. He made the author of Rethinking Voxels made a new branch. And this is what I'm using. Release like Beta 4 was getting there, but Beta 5 I think is it. I think this is like really good. Plus I'm running another thing called Distant Horizons. So that gives me like the great view distance. So it's pretty cool. I gotta like introduce you to my cat. Here's my cat. Oh, ow, ow, oh. Here's my cat, Mr. Dude. This is my cat. He's sitting like right in front of me, like probably because he wants. I don't know what he wants. I just gave him some treats because I came back. See, I have to give my cats treats to show that I'm a hunter. Whenever I leave the house and I come back, I have to like bring them something to see like, yo, I'm not just a useless human. I can actually hunt. So I bring back little treats for him. Oh, yeah, Mr. Dude. I bring back treats for Mr. Dude. That's to show him that I'm a good hunter. So yeah, here it goes. Yeah, it's pretty great. So this is my sugarcane farm and my bamboo farm, and it's really simple. It's super basic. Yeah, my frames. This is like pretty heavy on my frames per second. The Rethinking Voxels, and like it would be okay. It would be fine. Except I'm using OBS at the same time, and so that is what's kind of killing my frames per second. But yeah, it's pretty simple, right? The sugarcane or the bamboo grows up until it gets to the observer level. When it does, it triggers this, and then it like knocks it off like that. See? And then the cart underneath will come pick it up and deposit it at the end. See, deposits it, and then it goes on its merry little way. So pretty cool, pretty baller, pretty nice. Yeah. So that's a thing going on. I've got my awesome mob farm up there. It's pretty cool. And I've been doing some enchanting. But what I want to do is make this guy a house to live in. And then I'm going to need, I started figuring, I'm going to need some farmers to live with so I can trade them pumpkins and get emeralds. That's going to be my moneymaker, are the pumpkins. So, but today I have scaffolding. So you know what? Why don't I get to work making this guy a home? So this show today is primarily like a test of my new camera. Ooh, it looks really good. My camera looks really good. I'm pleased. Pleased by my camera. It's smooth, dude, and it's like not choppy. Like it's got a clear image. Like it's really good. I was using a Razer Kio or whatever, and that thing sucked. I was using this piece of shit, and it sucks. It sucked. It just ended up dying. It was like bzzz, and it just died. So I don't know what happened, but it's dead, and I went and got a Logitech, and man, this is so much better. This now I've had issues with Logitech mice in the past. I'm not a fan of the Logitech mice, but the camera's pretty baller. Okay, so I'm gonna work on this things, so I need more logs and planks and probably stairs and everything. I only have one. Actually, I have only really one type of wood. I really only have this type of wood. So kind of a bummer. And it makes it hard to like place things. But whatever. So yeah, I've got scaffolding now. So it's a lot better. Scaffolding? Yeah, I dig scaffolding. So this is primarily a test of my camera to see if it works, which it looks like it's working beautifully. But also, I want to talk about a few things that happened. Like today, for instance, Judge Eileen Cannon dismissed the court case against Donald Trump. She dismissed it. Now we all know, right? If you've been paying attention, we know that the purpose of Judge Eileen Cannon, her entire deal was to delay the case as long as possible. Because Donald Trump is guilty. He's super guilty. It's super obvious that Donald Trump stole the documents and then lied about it and then tried to hide them when the FBI came for them. It's so he's like dead to rights. He's guilty. He's super guilty of stealing nuclear secrets from the United States. Do you know what the United States did the last time someone stole nuclear secrets from them? Their names were Julius and Ethel Rosenberg. And in the 1950s, they were working for the Soviet Union. But they lived in the United States, and they had access to United States information. And they used their access to they used their access to steal information about the US nuclear program and then give it to the Russians. They were caught, and the United States government executed them. They were executed for treason. That was like the last time the United States executed anyone for treason. But the United States did it in 1950 something. I have to look it up exactly when. But it's true. It actually happened. No joke. The United States executed them for their treason because they stole nuclear secrets. Now, if that's something that the United States has done to the Rosenbergs, like, what do you think the United States ought to do to a president who steals nuclear secrets and then gives them to our enemies? Like, they're not, the president's not just some rando, dude. He's like the president. Like, what should we even do about that? Well, I think the United States should follow the law. And that's all fine and dandy, right? But then Donald Trump managed to get Judge Eileen Cannon. Well, what's so special about Judge Eileen Cannon? Let me tell you. Judge Eileen Cannon was selected, or was appointed to be or confirmed to be a federal judge. Donald Trump nominated her after he had already lost the election. So Donald Trump there was an election in like November 5th or 6th or something, 2020, and Donald Trump lost. After Donald Trump lost, he appointed this judge, Judge Eileen Cannon. Why would Donald Trump appoint Judge Eileen Cannon? Good question. It turns out Judge Eileen Cannon will do anything that Donald Trump wants her to do. So Donald Trump, he filed these cases, not because he was going to win, but because they would kill time. So Donald Trump, his whole deal is that he's trying to delay the court cases until after the election, because he's hoping that the election with the election, he can seize power. And if he seizes power, Donald Trump is going to make all these court cases go away. He's already got a ruling from what's his face? The Roberts Court, Supreme Court. The Republicans, only the Republicans, ruled that the president is above the law as long as the president, what the president does is an official act. Well, then you go, well, what's an official act? And then I'll tell you. Nobody knows. The Supreme Court did not say what is an official act. They did not do it. Was that a mistake? Did they forget? No, they didn't forget. They did that on purpose. Because in this way, only the Supreme Court is able to determine if what a president does is legal or not. Only the Supreme Court. So that's how the Supreme Court can maintain control, maintain its power. Because the president can do anything the president wants as long as it's an official act. And the only ones who can determine if it's an official act is the Supreme Court. Ta-da! Isn't that tricky? Isn't that crazy? That's like pretty devious of the Roberts Court to do that. Pretty devious. Diabolical even. Because the United States is a democracy. The United States is a sanctuary for people escaping the horrors of government that is not responsive to the people and does not allow them any freedom. So essentially it's a haven for people trying to escape the king or authoritarian regimes. You don't have to in the United States, you don't have to hide who you are. You don't have to hide what you think and what you believe. You don't have to hide your religion. You don't have to hide who you love. You don't have to hide. Because in the United States, we're free. That's the idea. However, there's a group of people in the United States who do not like this freedom that we're creating. They do not like it. They hates it. They hates it. And you'd say, well, why do they hates it? Because from their tradition, there's a divine hierarchy. There's a deity, and this deity has proscribed a divine hierarchy, and it is sinful and against this deity if you try to destroy the hierarchy. And this freedom that the United States has, where people can do what they want and be who they really are and say what they really think, that freedom, it is contrary to the let's see, how am I going to do this? That freedom is contrary to the beliefs of I need that one there. To these people. They believe that no, humans aren't free. Humans are not free. Humans are here to serve a deity. The deity that prescribed the rules. And that you have to believe in this deity. You have to do it. You don't have a choice. You don't have the freedom to have your own belief system. You have to abide by the beliefs of this group. And this group that's inside the United States, and they're very powerful. So there's a tension inside the United States. between people who want to express freedom and make the United States, great, and then the bad people who have proscribed this vision where people are not free. They have to follow the rules of this hierarchy, and that if you get out of the way, dude. If you do anything to threaten the hierarchy, then you're an enemy. So that's where we're at right now. We're locked in a battle between these two groups: the people who want freedom and the people who want control. Now, it's one thing for me to say what's going on here. That's pretty nice, right? Nice house. Nice house, man. Nice house. What I need though is yeah, there we go. So yeah, we're in a so this is not something that's brand new, right? This is not like that came out of nowhere, like, oh geez guys, it came out of nowhere. No. This has been an issue in the United States since its inception, since the beginning. Because in the beginning of the United States, the two groups of colonists, there are two groups of colonists. One group was found in the south, the southern colonies, and another group was found in the northern colonies. And they had two different ways of living lives, operating. In the southern colonies, they operated by enslaving other human beings, Africans. They would enslave Africans, and not just like, happy slavery. It was chattel slavery. It was a terrible form of slavery. And they would enslave these people and take their labor, and then keep the labor for themselves, the fruits of their labor for themselves, and then oppress the slave class. That was their entire nature. And they felt very strongly that this was by their deity, this was the divine order, where the slave owners would be superior and over the slave class. That was divine. You couldn't question it because their God had ordained it. So it was beyond question. The other group, to be found in the north, didn't rely on slave labor. It relied on the labor of immigrants. And the immigrants had it, people not from the colonies. And the immigrants had it pretty rough. They had it hard. I'm not saying like that it was a cakewalk for them, because it wasn't. They oftentimes didn't speak the language. They oftentimes got exploited and abused. But the longer they stayed here, the more benefits they accrued, I guess, as you could say it. It was a different way, right? They may have been immigrants, they may have been treated poorly, but they were able to own property. And if they became citizens, they were able to vote. That was not the case for the enslaved class in the South. So these two disparate groups had to come together and work together in order to defeat the owner of the colonies, because the colonies themselves were not free. They were literally colonies that existed for the benefit of the English Empire, for the king. And because they were colonists, they didn't have any political rights. So the king could do whatever he wanted to the colonists. And the colonists, thought this wasn't right. That's not right to do this. The natural state of humans is freedom. And the king takes that away. Like, yeah, right? Isn't it interesting enough? But that's exactly the model used by the slavers in the South. the model of the king, of the sovereign above all others, is the model used by the slavers to maintain control over the enslaved humans. They used that same model, but they didn't like it when it was applied to them. They didn't like it. So, but the thing is that they couldn't do it alone. They couldn't do it alone. The slavers in the South could not do it alone. The industrialists in the North couldn't do it alone. The Yankees, whatever you want to call them, they couldn't do it alone. They had to work together in order to defeat the larger enemy, which was the English Empire. And somehow they did it. But just because they defeated and then they won their independence. But just because they won their own independence, like, it wasn't the end of it. Now you have these two groups who are diametrically opposed to one another. They should be, they ought to be, diametrically opposed. One group wants to expand freedom as much as possible. The other group wants to restrict freedom in accordance to their deity, who is beyond question. You can't question this deity. You just have to accept it. Or you have to be forced to accept it. So these two groups don't get along. And consequently, when the pressure was finally off the new American country, the United States, when the pressure was finally off of them, they went to war with each other. Because they both wanted to take control of the resources of this new country for their own visions. One group's vision was of maximizing freedom for all human beings, and the other people's vision was to adhere to the prescribed vision of their deity, who was beyond question, just like the king was beyond question. So that was the Civil War, where many states rebelled. Southern states rebelled and tried to secede from the Union, and they staged a rebellion. And every one of these states wrote a letter to memorialize the reason why they were going to war against the Union to try to create a new country. Every one of them wrote a letter, and in every letter they wrote, they all placed slavery, the institution of slavery, at its center. They said the primary reason why we are seceding from the Union is because we believe in the divine order that puts white man above black men, and says that we're the best, and that since it's a divine order, it can never be questioned. So by the United States trying to enforce its vision of equality and justice, they are questioning the divine order, and that cannot be tolerated. So there was a war, and the Confederates lost. But instead of the Confederates being utterly smashed into oblivion, they staged a coup in the United States, and they staged a coup in the United States, and the vice president took over by the name of Andrew Johnson. Andrew Johnson was not of the same mind frame as President Lincoln, and he forgave all of the slavers and let them back into government. So the slavers kept their power and bided their time until we get to the modern day. Now, right? Slavers are only able to maintain power because the majority of the American population is of quote white descent. Now you have to ask, what is white? Is white a country? Is there a white country where white people come from? No, there's no white country. Well, what about a language? Is there the white language? The language of white, where from whence white people originate. No, no, no. There's no white language. Uh, well, what about culture? Is there like a white culture? And I would say no. No, it's not a white culture. There's an American culture, but it's not white. And American culture is a funny thing because it's so broad and diverse, it's almost impossible to define. But I know it's not white. It might be a slaver culture. That's an idea. It could be there's slaver culture. Yes, I will say that. But there's not really a white culture. There's not a white language. There's not a white country, and there's not a white history. What? Yeah, think about it. There's no white history. White isn't real. There is no white. White only exists as juxtaposed against black. So then you can ask the same questions. Is there a black culture? Yes. Is there a black country? Yes. It's the United States. Is there a black language? Yes. Ebonics. You want to call it Ebonics? I don't know African American vernacular. Yes. Yes. There's a black language. Is there a black history? Yes. Is there a black people? Yes. So why is there a black people but not a white people? Because who are the black people? The black people, the black civilization, are the people who were formerly Africans. They were Africans. They lived in Africa. They had their own African language, culture, African history, African everything. They were Africans. However, English slavers, either through force or through money, English slavers came and enslaved these Africans and transported them to the before they were in the United States, to the colonies, then eventually the United States. No, there was a law that said you couldn't import any more Africans. You had to make do with the Africans you had, the slaves you had. Oh. So anyways, but yeah, so the English originally started the process by enslaving Africans, taking them to America. And once in America, all the history, all the culture, all the language of the Africans were fucking destroyed. Utterly destroyed. They were mixed up, so they couldn't find other people who speak their language or knew their culture. And even if they could, they were divided. They would be sold off or divided in some way where they couldn't form a cohesive whole. They were robbed of everything, literally everything. They had no language, no culture, no history, nothing. They had nothing. They were stripped completely bare of everything they once were. But even in those horrible conditions of having everything stripped away from you, they remained human beings. And human beings have language, have culture, have history. And so the black Americans forged anew their own language, their own history, their own culture from like literally nothing. And their history is a history of a march toward emancipation and freedom. Complete and absolute freedom, total freedom. That's essentially what they're about. They are a march from slavery to freedom. And like even today we like, are we really free? Like a lot of people are stuck on the deity of control. and they feel that reality has been proscribed by this deity and is beyond question. You can never ever question it, and you can never deviate from the forms proscribed by this deity. But humans are free and creative and are able to imagine all sorts of possibilities and are able to create all sorts of forms. So it's incorrect to say that there's only one right proscribed way of doing things. If you don't believe in this deity, if you don't follow the deity, then it means nothing to you. It's whatever it proscribes is meaningless because you don't follow it. You don't give it any weight. So for Black Americans, they literally forged themselves out of the ruins of slavery. They're amazing. Black people are amazing. So yes, you can say there's a black culture. Well, what about a white culture? So what we already found out, there's no such thing as white. So there's such thing as black. A black person is a person deprived of all the rights and privileges that are held by Europeans. Black people didn't have their own language, but Europeans had their own language and their own histories. Black people didn't have a lineage they could look back on anymore because it was destroyed for them. But white people could be like, oh yeah, like we come from the old country where like our ancestors were this and that and this and that. So whiteness isn't real. It's just the opposite of being black, and blackness is real. It's the deprivation of your history, language, of your rights, of everything. Black is to be black is to be deprived of everything, and to be like is traditionally the slave class. So black was definitely real. So white was something in juxtaposition to losing all that. If you're white, you still have your language, you still have your rights, you still have your history, you still have your old world culture. Oh, I'm getting wrecked by these flying things. So white doesn't exist independent by itself as a thing. It is dependent on there being a black. Because who are those people that claim to be white? They're not white. They came from somewhere. Where did they come from? They came from Europe, like primarily. And even the definition of what it meant to be white changed over time. Because in the beginning, Irish people